Guys, in this next news story, the crossbow triple killer, Kyle Clifford, sobbed in his wheelchair in a police interview in the first seen footage of him since he murdered the wife and two daughters of the BBC star John Hunt. Ex-soldier Clifford, who's 26, slaughtered 61-year-old Carol Hunt with a 10-inch knife before shooting dead Louise, who's 25, and Hannah, who's 28, with a crossbow at their home in Bushy in Hertfordshire on July the 9th last year. Clifford had been unable to accept that Louise dumped him because of his offences and belittling behaviour that troubled friends and family. He cowardly refused to attend trial, as he was today found guilty of the word beginning with R of Louise moments after killing her mother and just before shooting her and her sister dead with a crossbow. The jury retired for just 45 minutes before delivering their verdict, with Clifford found guilty unanimously. Family and friends applauded from the public gallery as they heard his fate, and Clifford is going to be sentenced for this on Tuesday. In a closing speech, prosecutor Alison Morgan Casey told the jury that Clifford had decided that if he couldn't have Louise, no one else could. He had restrained and gagged her mother, Carol, or her sister, Hannah, and the only reason could be to R her. After his guilty verdict, police released new footage of Clifford crying while sat in his wheelchair while he was quizzed by detectives. The triple killer refused to answer questions, instead shaking his head and replying no comment. Clifford was left paralysed from the waist down after shooting himself with a crossbow and could not be interviewed for 2 months. The footage shows him breaking down in tears as he is asked about a note he wrote to his family, and Clifford said he did not want to live my life without her after Louise ended their relationship 2 weeks before the triple killing. He told his family members, "None of you have failed, and that it was my decision to just be at peace."
It's evident quite clearly from your purchase of the crossbow, from your purchase of the additional bolts, from the purchase of the gun and the knife in the 2 weeks leading up to the murders. Do you agree? Do you agree that it shows that you only had one thing in mind, and that planning began when you purchased these items? You got to the address and you came well prepared. You came prepared with Louise's belongings, didn't you?
No comment.
Louise's belongings were your ticket into that address. Yes?
No comment.
You deceived your way into that address at the front door with Carol. So on the mobile phone in the notes section, there is a note which is titled "Last Letter," and it's written to different family members, has individual paragraphs addressed to each individual family member. When you wrote that note, had you already planned the murders of Louise, Carol and Hannah? So I'm interested in the words "prevent this." So tell me what you mean by "prevent this."
No comment.
Do you mean the murders of Carol, Hannah and Louise?
No comment.
Explain to me why you decided to deprive Hannah and Louise of that privilege.
No comment.
What gave you the right to do that?
No comment.
What gave you the right to deprive Carol of seeing her future grandchildren?
No comment.
It's a very self-centred note and doesn't take into account anybody else. Do you agree with that?
No comment.
There's no apology to the Hunt family, is there?
No comment.
The only apology is to yourself. Is your intention to make people feel sorry for you writing these letters?
No comment.
Look at your behaviour. Look how calmly and nonchalantly you walk away from that house. You've just killed 3 people and you stroll away like you're going down the shops.
In the interview, Detective presses Clifford on providing a no apology to the Hunt family in the note. He added, "The only apology is to yourself. Was your intention to make these people feel sorry for you writing these letters?" The footage then ended with the detective telling Clifford, "Look at your behaviour. Look how calmly and nonchalantly you walk away from that house. You just killed 3 people and you stroll away like you were going down to the shops." Clifford refused to engage with questions throughout, simply sniffing and sobbing. Chief Superintendent John Simpson said Clifford only showed emotion in the interview when his questions were about himself, as he hit out at the killer's self-pitying and inability to recognise the impact on the victims. The footage was released after Clifford was today convicted of the word beginning with R of Louise on July the 9th last year, the same day he murdered her, Hannah, and Carol at their home. At today's verdict, the prosecutor Morgan said if he wanted her, he would have her, he would control her, he would do whatever he wanted to her, he would murder her and members of her family. Sheriff Carl Clifford was determined that if he could not have Louise Hunt, then no one else could. He knew the family did not support his relationship with her. He was angered, and that anger would conclude with planning out the violence as a means of acting out his spite in a final act before her death. Questioning why only Louise was tied up and silent, Ms. Morgan said, why did he need to restrain Louise Hunt? He hadn't restrained Carol. What was it he needed to do to the other that involved that restraint? She was silent so nobody could hear, as she was being, the word beginning with R. The defendant claimed that he had consensual with Louise on June the 23rd, causing the deposit of DNA that was found during an intimate swab after her death was also questioned. Ms. Morgan said Clifford had humiliated and belittled her at her friend's wedding in Scarborough on June the 22nd by boasting of seeing other women and criticising her cooking. She asked, was it likely they would have had activity on the morning of June the 23rd? Louise ended the relationship after the return. The prosecutor also reminded the jury that a forensic scientist has concluded that the quantity and position of the defendant's DNA meant it was not a relic of historic. She told her that the cool and calm view of the evidence shows that the only conceivable conclusion was to find Clifford guilty on the R charge. Mr. Justice Joe Bentham told the jury, this was a dreadful incident, I'm sure you'll agree. It's unspeakable what friends and family have witnessed in this court. They have conducted themselves with huge restraint and I pay tribute to them. In audio recordings from 2 external CCTV cameras at a family's house on July the 9th last year, Clifford could be heard engaging Carol in conversation. Tellingly, she confessed to feeling like she had seen a ghost when he turned up but was too kindly to try and turn him away. He told her, I'm dropping off some of Louise's stuff. Once inside, he cut Carol down with a flurry of blows with a knife, then lay in wait for an hour for Louise, who was working in a pod in the garden where she ran her dog grooming business. When she came in, he subjected her to 2.5-hour ordeal, during which he restrained her with duct tape, gagged her to stop her screams, and did the word begin with R. Coley dispatched her with a crossbow bolt to the chest, caught on audio as a sickening whooshing sound before her sister, Hannah, arrived. Hannah was heard to say, Kyle, I swear to God, shortly after entering the house and going upstairs. Seconds later, she sent a text message to her partner saying, Kyle here, police now, he's tying us up. 2 minutes later, there was a loud thud, believed to be the firing off another crossbow bolt. Hannah managed to call 999 and identify the intruder as Clifford. Emergency services round at 7 o'clock to find her struggling for life near the front door and were unable to save her. Louise and Carol were already dead. Clifford, whose older brother Bradley is currently in jail serving life for murder after mowing down a moped driver and the passenger with his car over an argument about a woman, left the scene in his car after the murders, was found hiding in Lavender Hill Cemetery. The following day, he shot himself with a crossbow. As officers approached him, he was in hospital for more than 2 months and he is now paralysed from the chest down. He told police during an interview, I'm sorry, what I did was atrocious. Louise's friends and family considered Clifford disrespectful, rude and arrogant, and spoke of his nasty temper. So guys, this is a new story coming in. Once again, I just want to say rest in peace to the victims and my condolences go out to your family.